My family and I experienced a miracle this weekend. And I can already feel the intense energy of it kind of fading out, and I'm sort of coming back to just ordinary reality now after being in awe. And I felt like I wanted to record this, and I got permission from my family to talk about what happened so that I could tell you what happened in hopes I can convey to you the specialness of this miracle, because I think it might be something that could happen for you too. And this is a story that involves cancer, so just heads up if that's really hard for you to hear about. Just heads up, I'm going to be talking about cancer. And the person who has cancer is my ex-husband. We were married for a very brief time. I think we were together for 6 years. We had a couple of kids. We split up when they were 2 and 4 years old. That was a long time ago. And he remarried and I remarried, and gradually we've become better friends. And especially in the last year, there's been something that feels more like genuine, trusting friendship between us and in the whole family. We've taken 2 family camping trips this year, and they were wonderful. And not only was there no tension, but there was like a sweetness, a calming sweetness where the trip was relaxing and healing. And I don't think a lot of divorced families can say that. So that right there is a miracle, but that's not the one I'm here to tell you about. So my ex-husband's name is Tim, his wife's name is Anne, and I really love them both. But I had no idea how much I loved them until about 10 days ago. Tim got diagnosed with probable, it was probable at that point, with bone cancer. And the doctors thought it was very advanced, metastasized all over his body, very close to that he would be dead in 6 weeks. And that it was going to be really painful, and it was going to go really fast, and he could never walk again, because they feared his bones would collapse. Like, all of this came down really fast. And what happened was, he'd had a bunch of tests and they were not looking good, but in the way that healthcare can be clunky and slow, and you wait to go see one specialist, and then you get the appointment, and then they order a test, and that takes 3 more days, and then you wait for the results, and that's 3 more days. And basically we were in this whirlpool of no diagnosis, but everything looking really bad. And then on Friday, I'm recording this on Monday, on Friday, Tim started to feel really bad, and he called me. His wife was driving him to the emergency room, and he called me and he said, "I need your help. I need you to get out a pen right now and take dictation." And he was dictating his will. He didn't think he was going to make it through the night. And that didn't make sense to me, because I knew he had a lot of pain. I knew that his x-rays were looking really bad. I knew that the doctor suspected a really advanced cancer, but he was still up and moving around and kind of looked like himself, except for sort of slow. So it didn't make sense to me that he would be dying like today. And it was very scary. And I thought, I don't know, he's being dramatic, but let me help. And I was writing this down, and he was communicating his last wishes. And then I helped out by calling the oncologist, the primary care doctor, because he didn't have a diagnosis yet, and he was already on his way to the emergency room. And I knew what was going to happen is that they'd have no record, and they wouldn't know what was going on with him. And so I was frantically calling these doctors' offices on a Friday afternoon to try to get them to connect with the hospital and send the records over and help him. And it was hard. It was hard as I get very CPTSD-ish around hitting obstacles when people don't care or they don't listen. And I was getting this ma'am, I was getting mailbox full and ma'am, and we can't, we're going to have to call you back Monday. And I was like, no, you have to get in there right now. He needs help right now. There's no diagnosis. He feels really bad. He knows something's wrong. I held back. I've had times in the past when I just got so intense when I was having that feeling. It's like it's a dysregulation feeling where, the feelings are so strong, and I just feel like I have to get through. But it is a dire situation, so it does come in handy sometimes to have that intensity. And Tim calls it the tiger in me. I can really fight for things. And every once in a while, it's actually a good thing. And so he didn't get to see an oncologist on Friday. He got admitted to the ER. And then they were going to send him home and say, it was probably just a drug reaction, because they didn't have the diagnosis. And I pushed him, and I was like, you should stay. You should try to get your diagnostics done there. Try to stay. And he stayed, and he got a bunch of tests done. And the only doctor who saw him was a doctor on call. in the ER. Now, doctors on call, they might be very good at a whole bunch of things, but they're not specialists at cancer generally. And that doctor looked at the results, and Tim was saying, tell me, what is it? It's bad, isn't it? And it came, and what that doctor ended up communicating was that, yeah, it's really bad. We've looked, and like all your bones are completely covered like leopard skin with these holes in them. And it's looks to be metastatic bone cancer, extremely advanced, and we're seeing it like right up by your spine. You can never walk again. We're going to have to probably amputate, and you're not going to live very long, and it's going to be incredibly painful. And it's pandemic time, so only one person can visit you ever, and you're never going to see your kids again, or get out of here. It was just like, it was very bad. It was very bad. So I was getting texts, and we got the text that it was that bad in the hospital. And my husband and my son and I rushed in. I had gotten a plane ticket for my other son to get to town by morning. And we rushed over there. We couldn't go in. And, we brought him a book and some things he needed from home. And we picked up his wife because visiting hours were like this long. We picked her up to take her home. So Tim's wife said that when he got the bad news, she had her hand resting on his leg and his leg was trembling. The words coming out of his mouth were brave and of good cheer, but his legs were trembling. And she was crying, and she's from Thailand, and they've been together for 15 years. And they are so in love. It's crazy how in love they are, and it's funny, you think that people have the perfect relationship, right? And then this happens. So we picked her up, and it was hard. It was hard just to look in her eyes, really, and how much fear and grief she has. That it was all going very, very fast for them. So on Saturday, I was driving to the airport to pick up my older son, who was arriving in town, and my husband was driving. We were all driving together, and everybody's really grim. Like, everything is so bad. And as we were driving, we were about 10 minutes from the airport, and I could just feel this big well in my heart of this just pure love. Love not just for the person dying, but for every person in this, every person in front of me, my husband, my sons, everybody. I could just see their innocence. And I was freed temporarily from all the baggage that I feel towards people, and the ideas about how I wish they would change, and I wish they'd be different, and they wronged me, and they said this, and they never did this right. And all of that just kind of goes away, and this pure love is there. And I had the presence of mind to think, what would my life be like if I could feel this love all the time? What would my life be like if this was my normal setting of just feeling love and acceptance and gratitude for the people in my life? And I tried to just let that happen. And we got to the airport, we got my son, and then we just went and got junk food. I gotta confess, it's been like total junk food land around here. We had candy for dinner 2 nights with all of this going on. And we went to an In-N-Out burger, and we were sitting outside. And it's really cold, it's by the airport, the planes are going over. It's just kind of this bleak, area. And we're sitting in the shade, and one of my sons gets a phone call, and he steps away to take it, and I see he's talking, and he comes back to the table, and we're all just hunched over our burgers. And he says, "You are not going to believe this." He said, "Dada's going to be okay." And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And he said, "He's going to be okay. It's not metastatic bone cancer." And I go, "What?" I stood up and I was like, "What? What?" And everybody's looking at me. They're all sitting at these little concrete tables looking at the crazy lady. And I start crying. I was just sobbing. And I think they thought I was laughing, and they were looking, and they were wondering what is going on. So I had to make an announcement. I said, "I think we just got good news. I think we just got good news." And I was crying, and my son explained to me, this is what we found out. It wasn't metastatic bone cancer. It's something called multiple myeloma, and that is, it's cancer, but it's treatable. And the drug combination that they use for chemotherapy includes a high dose of steroids. And the steroids are so effective that they couldn't even give him a full dose on Saturday, because when they do the biopsy this week, they need to have some cancer cells so they can get the DNA type of the cancer cells so they know exactly what they're targeting. So they couldn't give him the full dose because by Wednesday there will be no cancer cells anymore. And mostly what they're going to be dealing with is bone damage. A lot of his bones have been damaged. The cancer is up against his spine, and that makes his bones very fragile, and they could collapse, and that could kill him. But his bones can be healed. Like, I didn't know that. His bones can be healed, and where the damage is too great, they can go in and replace bone tissue. And eventually, in a couple years, he'll have some transfers of bone marrow from one part of his body to the damaged bones to get to sort of recolonize the inside of his bones with bone marrow. And he's back at the office today. It's Monday. That was Saturday. That was Saturday afternoon. And by Saturday evening, the guy who was never coming home came home. He went back to his apartment and we walked over there. And I'll share this picture with you. And I have never been so overjoyed. Well, I won't say never. It's up there with having a baby. As walking in and seeing him home and sitting with his wife. My older son was in the kitchen making soup, and when I walked in, he just kind of looked in and he smiled at me. And Tim and his wife were in there just crying with joy. And Tim got up when I walked in, and we just rushed over and we hugged and we just sobbed in a way that we probably never have, just this kinship of experiencing this miracle. So I started to email my family and text them and tell them this amazing good news. And people were saying, oh my God, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And a little part of me, I just couldn't say yes to that. And I'll tell you why. Because it may have sounded from the story I was telling like he did have this imminently fatal bone cancer, and then it turned into something that wasn't fatal, but that's not actually what happened. What happened was we had a wrong diagnosis and a wrong understanding of what it was, and we went through all the emotions of believing that, of what we feared it was, and then we got accurate diagnosis, and we felt this amazing joy and relief. So there wasn't really a miracle. We hadn't really caused that change to happen. And if anything, we had caused ourselves to get completely freaked out by believing the early preliminary diagnosis and just telling everyone, getting all into that. But I'll tell you what the miracle was. I realized, actually, all that's happened right now is we found out that everything is going to be about like we thought it would be 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, we weren't feeling all this intense love and gratitude. We were just being our normal selves, working a lot, kind of grumbling about things, feeling isolated, getting very tired of the pandemic, feeling sorry for ourselves, complaining. And all that happened was, then we thought everything was bad, then we found out it wasn't that bad, and we got to go right back to how it had been before. But this time we were deeply grateful. This time we were overjoyed just to have status quo again. And it wasn't even status quo. It was like it was before, but Tim has cancer and he's got to have a bunch of medical procedures for years. And chemotherapy. He's going to make it, but it's a pain, right? And literally, it's a pain and it's a big hassle. It's going to alter his life. And yet, we're happier about everything than we've ever been. And we're so grateful. We're so grateful for status quo. So, that's the miracle. The miracle is that we had our eyes opened to how good it is that we're all alive right now. We're alive. I mean, one day, we're all going to go one by one, right? You, me, everybody. But right now, here we are. And right now, Tim gets the opportunity to keep doing what he wants to do. He can go visit his mom in the UK. He can keep rowing. He can go back to work. He can love his wife. He can spend time with his kids and watch them grow up, and just like before. And now we get it. And now we get it. And it's the nature of witnessing miracles that after a while, sometimes you get used to it and you take them for granted. And I hope I don't, but I can feel it coming. I can feel that I'm already getting used to it. So I wanted to tell you before it's gone, that it's possible to wake up to joy and gratitude without any change, without any positive change in your outward circumstances. And when we're healing complex PTSD, it may seem like outward circumstances have to change first. But the thing that changes our outward circumstances is particularly our relationships and our capacity to have joy and do what we love to do. What changes that is an inside change. It's an inside change. And if you want to court that change, if you want to encourage that change to come over you, to raise your consciousness, to keep setting you free from the mental prison of believing that everything is terrible and you're hopeless and what happened to you can never be solved and the damage that it did to you is just done for, you're done for. You know, be like Tim, just be like Tim, just hold on, just wait for the miracle. It might not be as bad as you think, and no matter what happened to you, you can begin to wake up and become your real self when you have less fear and less resentment. It was our fear that had us go through that terrible week of believing we were doomed. And sometimes the news is going to be bad. It is going to be bad. And someday an end will come. But every day that you're here, you want to be out of that mental prison that, oh my God, everything's so bad, everything's so terrible, I'm doomed, I'm damaged, I'm no good. I will never be loved. I'm all alone in the world. All that fear must come out so that you can have a little reprieve. And I hope you can have it without having somebody have it to get cancer or dying for you to see it. But there's an immense potential. To be aware and to feel and experience the love that's all around you right now. So last night, Tim and his wife and the kids were over and we all sat down and not all. Tim and his wife and I sat down and we wrote our fears and resentments and we meditated like we always do when we get together, like I teach all of you to do. And we let the cares of the day slip away, and while we were gone, the Chinese food arrived and we all sat down at the table and had some takeout Chinese food, and we were happy. We were happy and grateful. And it was just the same old thing we ever did. But this time we understood how special it was. So I hope this miracle has been communicated to you and you can give it a try. If you need techniques, you can always try my daily practice technique down there. And next time Tim and Ann and I are sitting there writing, maybe you'll be at your home writing and meditating too. So hope you can join us.